Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Studio Ghibli Month, here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm checking out a film from 1994. That movie is Pom Poko. Now, unlike every other movie I've covered so far this month, I actually do know the plot to this one. Partially because I've been curious about watching this movie for years, and I kind of sort of had to give myself a little bit of a refresher by giving the back a read here. So the basic plot to this is a village of tanuki, which are mythical raccoon dogs, are fighting against humans who have decided to cut into the tanuki's forest in order to build housing and shopping malls. It basically is man versus nature. So I have a funny feeling that we are going to get a very loud, we have to fucking save the earth and all that kind of crap message. At least I know that one is coming at me. It's probably not going to be as annoying as the other films where they want to beat you over the head with their fucking message. At least I'm hoping that they put that in the back seat and actually focus on telling a decent story. One other thing I noticed, and this maybe is just me, but I know that when Disney puts out these movies, they always love to throw the cast list on top. They love to throw the names of the biggest stars they have at the top. And I noticed that they didn't do that here, so I kind of assumed that they didn't have a sizable English cast. And so I looked it up, and what do you know, it actually does have a bunch of nameable talent. I actually have got the list up right now. Now, outside of your common voice actors who you hear everywhere, I'm talking people like Jess Harnell and Russi Taylor and Kevin Michael Richardson, we have people like Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Clancy Brown and J.K. Simmons and Olivia Dabo and Brian Posehn. This movie has a really sizable cast. Let me pull that cast list down. A very sizable cast, but they didn't bother to put a single name anywhere on the case. It's not on the front, it's not on the back, and like I said, they usually love to run those bastards all the way across the top. I mean, like right across the top, right underneath the title. I was kind of surprised by that. I just kind of wanted to share that with you. I have no idea if this movie's going to be any good at all, guys. The only way I'm going to find out is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Pom Poko. Okay, was not expecting to see a character's scrotum, stretched out to 150 square feet and then quickly retracted back in. That was just creepy as fuck, man. Okay, so I just saw our raccoons, our tanuki, whatever the fuck, just pull the coolest prank on one guy. That took so much fucking effort for all of them to pull off, which doesn't seem to make a lot of sense considering how much they banged on about how fucking raccoons are lazy. It doesn't stop the scene, though, from being fucking hilarious. I absolutely loved it. Well, guys, I can say this much. We now have gotten a look at these new friggin' raccoon cubs. And they're probably the cutest goddamn things I've seen all fucking day. They are absolutely adorable. I'm really kind of liking this. Alright, you know what? I was kind of used to it the first couple times it happened, but, all of these friggin' like raccoon tanuki things and their ever-growing scrotums can totally stop now. Because it's no longer cute, it's no longer gross, it's just kind of tiresome. This is kind of sad, guys. This movie started off really good. It was really funny, and now the movie just seems to be dragging a bit. And I know that there's about a half an hour left, but so far, at least at this point, the movie just doesn't seem to know what the fuck it wants to do. Our story has sort of gone off the fucking rails with all the shit involved in the fucking parade, and the theme park has been worked into this. And it all just seemed to come out of nowhere. I'm certainly hoping for the movie to end fucking strong, but oh my god, man, just the story has ground to a dead halt and it hasn't moved in like 10 minutes. It's kind of sad. That is probably the happiest mass suicide I've ever seen in a film. Even though the movie doesn't ever directly state that it was a mass suicide, it's so strongly implied it had to be a mass suicide. And you can hear the music, like they're all partying about it. Jesus Christ, that is incredibly depressing, dude. Well, guys, that was Pom Poko. Let me shut that off. Okay. So, before I get started, I have to make one point real clear here, because at the very start of this video, I mentioned that I was absolutely terrified about this movie potentially just being 2 hours of, absolutely entertainment-free preaching about how we have to save the fucking earth, and we gotta save animals, and this, and this, and this. And while that is there, while there is a lot of preaching about, and mind you, justifiable preaching, just to be totally fair, about trying to save forests and preserve, wildlife and all this, while that is there, I will say, and this shocked the shit out of me, but this movie actually handled it in a very level-headed and even-handed fashion. Because where every other Studio Ghibli film I've seen that wants to bang on a message, they basically pick one side of it, and they just say, you are either with me on this, or you can go fuck yourself. Except for Howl's Moving Castle, where it's, if you side with either side of a war, you're fucking stupid, because fuck you. This movie actually tells all possible sides of this argument, and it doesn't make any side seem, wrong or evil, because the big thing, guys, is humans are wiping out forests in order to build homes. And while most other films which try to talk about the evils of that would paint this as a totally fucking evil thing, and that the humans are all just a bunch of snidely fucking Whiplash clones who just absolutely revel in wiping out trees and dirt, here it's humans are wiping out the hillsides and building homes, because the population has gotten so big that humans have nowhere else to go. So it actually does it in a rather, it actually does it in a way that feels natural, makes it feel sensible. And that shocked me, because I was totally afraid that the humans were going to, as I said, be just basically a bunch of fucking mustache fucking twirling evil dicks who just get massive fucking boners over the fucking thought of burning down forests. Thankfully, that was not the case. However, though, now that I've said it, a version of this movie with humans like that, I think would have been hilarious. But that's just me. So I am happy that the movie, while still delivering its message, at least does it in a sensible fashion, and it doesn't beat you over the head with it in ways that other films from this studio have done. So at least we have that. So now I want to move on to writing proper, as in talking about the story, and we do have two little problems here, and I'm going to stress little, because these are in no way deal fucking breakers, okay? I want to make that point real clear. The first one is the film's pacing. This movie clocks in at about 2 hours long, and as I stated earlier, the last half hour of the movie, this movie essentially doesn't know where to fucking go. It basically closes up the conflict which they had just opened up not 2 minutes prior, and then even after that, with about 15-20 minutes left in the movie, there's just sudden fucking closure. It's like, oh, and this happened, and this happened to all of these fucking raccoons, and all of these went off and they formed a fucking death cult, and all these guys were doing this, and all them were doing that, and everybody, except for the suicide cult, all lived happily ever after the end. And it all just seemed, well, and mind you, it did take him about 15 minutes to tell all of this, so it did at least flow naturally. It's just that there was that brief moment in there where it just sort of felt like they didn't know what to fucking do, and then it sort of dawned on them, wait, let's just fucking kill off, like tons of them, and we'll figure out shit as we fucking go. And that honestly isn't really the problem. It's just that by the time you get to that point, by the time you get about 90 minutes in, the movie's pacing has been going a little bit slow. Not terribly slow, but slow enough where you will notice it. And I noticed I was having a hard time staying fucking awake. Now, that's partially because I'm filming this after finishing up a full-time shift at fucking work. That's totally on me. But even honestly, guys, with all of the caffeine I was downing, I was still having a hard time, sticking with the movie. I fucking made it through, and I'm happy about that. And the movie is still good. It's just, if they would have tightened up the pacing a little bit, the movie had probably been about 20 to 25 minutes shorter, might have been a little bit more bearable. Now, the other problem, and again, this is a real minor issue, and some people are not going to care about this problem, but I found the writing to be a little bit overly episodic. And when I say that, I mean that, okay, yes, we do have our primary conflict, which essentially is raccoons are trying to stop humans from wiping out their homes. That's awesome. Unfortunately, instead of focusing exclusively on that conflict, it gets told in little small, stories over the course of the film. I mentioned that bit about the last half hour, and before we got the rapid fire closure in the suicide cult, which, by the way, I just want to mention, as much as I've mentioned the fucking suicide cult, it seriously is not how most of them go. So I'm totally happy to mention it and not consider it a spoiler, because they kind of sort of build it up for like 2 minutes, and then, boom, suicide cult, kind of, technically. Who cares? So, anyway, now prior to that, we had a segment involving a fucking parade, where all the raccoons were generating all of their energy, and they were transforming into all these monsters, and they were going to try to scare people out with this massive parade. Instead, everybody loved it, and the owner of a nearby theme park claimed credit for it. So then the story shifted fucking gears entirely. So now, instead of trying to get food for winter, instead of trying to stop the humans, instead of, going through all of the shit that was built up before that, now it was just about how a couple of these fucking raccoons are going to take vengeance on the owner of this fucking theme park, and they're going to steal tons and tons of money from him, and then they don't do a thing with the fucking money. So that kind of felt almost like a wasted story there. But you see, like those sorts of things, like a single fucking, event just happens, and there almost seems to be a loud audible thunk before and after every single one of these starts, as if this may have originally been intended to be like a television miniseries of some, sort. However, though, that honestly is just a theory, but I am going to say right now, I'm just going to say this straight out, episodic writing has always sort of bothered me a little bit, at least when it's in a movie. Episodic writing, it doesn't really work. The only time it did is with a Christmas Story. A Christmas Story was able to do it well. This movie didn't quite flow as well. Now, while I do say that, I will say that our story here and every single one of the little, episodic stories are all really, really interesting. It's just that when you pile them all together, and then you add the slightly slow pacing, the movie does suffer. It does suffer slightly. However, once more, it doesn't fucking suffer terribly, and there's no way in hell I am going to damn this movie for something like that when the movie is still incredibly entertaining. So I will say that writing is for the most part good, but it does totally have its problems, and those problems could very well negatively impact the movie for you. Now let's talk about the acting. The acting here was awesome from everybody. I mean, guys, when I first saw that cast list, there was one name I was horrified to see. Because it's a fucking comedian who, A, has no idea how to be funny, and B, when he's asked to act, he can't, and that's Brian Posehn. Brian Posehn, for the short time that he's in this movie, for like the scant 2 minutes he's in this movie, he actually turns in a halfway decent showing. It was kind of surprising. So, Brian, good job, man. You actually learned how to act for 2 minutes. Holy shit. Kind of a pity that you lost that gift, and unfortunately, this is kind of unfucking related, but your stand-up sucks, and you should be ashamed of shilling that kind of crap out on stage. That's just me, though. That's just me venting. But our entire cast here turned in a magnificent job. Now, I know a lot of that has to do with the fact that outside of Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Clancy Brown, well, Clancy Brown I can throw into the pile, I can throw into the other pile, but outside of like J.K. Simmons and Jonathan Taylor Thomas, everybody else are well-known established voice actors. Clancy fucking Brown has made a name as a voice actor, and so has Kevin Michael Richardson, so has Jess Harnell, so has Tress fucking McNeil, so has everybody else who's in this movie. Everybody are well-known, established, veteran voice actors, and when you put them all together, my God, beautiful fucking things happen. And our cast absolutely lit it up here. I have no negative words for our cast here. All of them came in, and all of them turned in an awesome fucking job. So I can totally say that much. Our acting here is great. I do have to give a couple of special little tributes here, because there are a lot of moments in this movie where our characters are expected to sing. I'm not talking about like a full-length, like 3-minute Broadway number. I'm talking like they have to sing some little fucking short-ass, like 30 fucking second thing. And the translators apparently had a hell of a time trying to get those lines to fucking rhyme. And when you give these things to some of these voice actors, and you're forcing them to read these clumsily translated lyrics to a very simplistic beat, you can tell that they are suffering through it, but god damn it, they powered through. A really good example is early on, the character of it was what the hell was the character's name? It was Oroku, who was voiced by Tress McNeil, is trying to sing this song about how the raccoons should not be fighting each other, and that there's not enough land for breeding, and she hits a lot of points in this song, and she has like a small fucking drum, probably about the size of the Blu-ray case, and you can see the character like beating on it with a fucking stick and trying to get like a cadence and a rhythm to it, and Tress McNeil's got to try to recite these lyrics to the beat of this fucking drum, and she fucking fails miserably at it, but god damn it, it was still a valiant effort. The same thing happened later on in the film when John fucking DiMaggio had to sing a song while the character he was voicing was strumming on a fucking abacus and giving out like a 3-line song. The difference here is that John's lines actually rhymed. Tress's didn't. Again, because the fucking most of hers didn't. And if they fucking did, they were such sketchy rhymes that I'm surprised she wasn't busting a fucking gut laughing. I would love to hear the outtakes from this. I really would. And when these actors are asked to sing these little short fucking songs, and they either have no beat at all, or they're forced to sing along to whatever the hell is being strummed or banged on in the scene, it still works, and it works very, very well. So, mad props to every single actor who was forced to sing the rather questionably translated songs in this movie. You guys are all fucking awesome. What else can I talk about? Art. The art style and the animation. I totally understand, guys, that normally when I talk about a film from Studio, Ghibli, if the movie's from this month or anything to go by, normally I don't have a single negative word to say about the animation. Pom Poko is the first time I actually get to sort of comment on art and animation, and it's not really a bad thing. It's just there was some things in there which seemed incredibly gratuitous, and what I mean by that is that okay, it's fully understood that raccoons, tanuki, again, whatever term you want to go with. The movie here, at least in English, absolutely insists on raccoons, but they look far more like but they look far more like tanuki to me. So that's why I fucking flip flop. And it's cool that they look ultra fucking realistic when they are near humans, and when they are alone, they take on a far more fucking like anthro frame, and they all of a sudden are wearing clothing because apparently when these fucking raccoons transform, they're also able to generate clothing out of fucking nowhere. The problem with that is every single time that they change, the clothing changes. So when you see this big like war going on between two warring factions of raccoons, and you see like one of them will basically do like a flip, and then all of a sudden they're in fucking like samurai armor, and then they get hit, and then the samurai armor changes into slightly different samurai armor, or they turn into rather crudely fucking drawn, almost ultra cartoonish raccoons. That actually happens quite often in the movie too. Is like when they're fucking partying, or when the suicide cult is on the boat, they all turn into these ultra cartoonish raccoons, and it just looks so vastly different from everything else you see. And sometimes when they have to go from that style back to their somewhat fucking realistic anthro art style, it doesn't really morph too well. The animators didn't really spend a lot of time morphing it over, and it looks kind of lazy. If they would have dialed back on that a little bit, it would probably have looked a hell of a lot better. However, though, if we were to discount all of that, the movie looks beautiful. The movie is the usual breathtaking Ghibli stuff that everybody who is familiar with this studio knows. It's just that all the fucking like transformations are a little bit gratuitous. While I'm on the subject of that, I totally understand, guys, that the myth involves tanuki, at least the males, having a massive ball sack on them. I really don't think that we needed as many instances of them stretching them, or folding them out, or using them as weapons. That felt a little bit much. In fact, I'm going to tell you guys that the first thing that we know about the suicide cult is that they take the sack of the oldest one, stretch it out as far as possible so he can morph it into a sail. No, I am not joking. And like the first couple of times, it was cute and it was funny, and then after that, it just felt kind of forced, and it just seemed to get a little bit more, disgusting, especially when we have a whole bunch of raccoons, and they're fighting against the police, and they're like growing their sacks to these massive sizes, and they're trying to crush the cops with them, and they're all veiny and nasty. It just seemed to come out of fucking nowhere, and it really wasn't necessary. I just kind of wanted to share that. Music here is really good, again, minus the few times when our actors are forced to sing rather poorly translated songs. But the actual score, the actual music heard in the background, is all amazing and beautiful, and I fucking loved it. Our sound mix here borderlines on perfect. Guys, ultimately, when all is said and done, can I recommend Pom Poko? Definitely. At least if you can find it cheap enough, which is kind of hard because I know Disney really loves to overcharge on their fucking Blu-rays. But if you can find a copy, you can find it at like a reasonable price. I'd say $12 or less. jump on this. Because this movie, even though it's flawed, is still a whole lot of fun. Whole lot of fun to watch. I am totally happy I finally had the chance to watch it. I'm totally happy that the sucker's gonna have a spot in my Blu-ray collection. This movie was shockingly fun. And I am so happy that I finally had a chance to watch it. Yes, I can absolutely recommend it for a purchase as long as you can find it at a reasonable price. Otherwise, by all means, rent it, stream it, do something. You totally have to see this movie. It really is a fun time. Now, Pom Poko came off the Amazon wish list. The person who sent it in was Wesley. You can find his YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/logos for the win. Wesley, thank you, because I had heard about this movie years and years ago, and I had heard that it was really good, but I never had the chance to actually sit down and watch it. And thanks to you, I finally had my chance, and the movie was amazing. And I would not have known that if you hadn't have sent it in, Wesley. And for that, I thank you. You're fucking amazing, dude. Once more, that is youtube.com/user/logos for the win. Now, I kind of feel like watching something else. Maybe something else that's got like a save the fucking earth message to it. You know, just kind of stick with this pattern. And the only thing I think I've got in my collection is the Toxic fucking Avenger, which, mind you, is a good series of movies. Not really the thing you want to follow Pom fucking Poko with, though. Maybe I should go see how much Fern and Gully is on Amazon. Because I haven't watched that thing in like 15 years at least. In fact, shit, I might just buy that and I'll do it for a future reaction and review. Who fucking knows? Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Reaction and Review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.